record on this computer. So, hello. We've had a bit of a glitch in terms of the Zoom link. So some people can join, some people can't. In any case, this is going to be recorded. So Ellie and I can probably have a chat about the parenting room and see who can join us. Okay, so first up, the thing I'd like to clear up for anyone who's listening now and also listening in the future is that if you think this is about having all your ducks lined up in a row, everything sorted, it's not about that. It really isn't about that, because the stuff that I'm be sharing, it's about being able to develop an awareness to connect with your child. Okay, I'll repeat that again. It's developing the awareness to connect with your child. Because a lot of times I think we miss the point that our child is trying to say, because we get caught up in their reactions, their frustration, their drama, their meltdowns. And then we're trying to put out that fire, but we're missing what they're actually saying behind those emotions. So therefore, in order to get awareness, it's actually asking questions. Does that make sense, Ali?
Yeah, definitely.
It's about asking the question and getting yourself out of the reaction that you're observing.
Yeah.
So there was another mom who also texted me saying that, can you talk about frustration? I feel so frustrated because I'm frustrated myself for not being able to be a better parent and yada, yada. The thing that we all go through.
Yeah. And
so this is the thing. When we are frustrated, that is the surface reaction and emotion, right? Yeah. And so once you are caught up in that frustration and you judge yourself for being frustrated, then it's a double whammy on you. You're having an emotion on emotion, which then takes you further away from actually what's happening underneath. Right? All right. So all the judgments you have, and clearly the tool that I'll be using today, mostly it's coming from Access Consciousness. It's a clearing tool. So those of you who are listening to this, you can go to www.theclearingstatement.com to understand a little bit more. But essentially, it's when we've asked the question and we notice the energy, we can clear it, right? So as a mom, if you notice all these reactions come up with your kids, right? Like they're having a meltdown, take a breather and just go, okay, all these reactive realities that I'm observing, that's happening with my child, that's happening with me, I destroy and uncreate it all, right, wrong, good, bad, pot and pock, all nine shorts, boys, POVAD and beyond, right? And then if you need to walk away for a little bit, if not, if you're able to hold your energy steady in that space, then go, right, what I am aware of. What am I aware of that my child is saying or indicating to me that I'm not yet able to see? So notice the question there. What am I aware of? And then the answer will come to you like, oh, hang on. And as a mom, this is where our intuitive abilities is like super. We might get a ping like, is my child tired? Is my child like got hurt emotionally or was disregarded at school? Or you might lead you to ask another question. Like, did something happen at school? And then, you might get a different answer, a different reaction from your child. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I think, Ellie, you were asking about how to not get caught up in the drama. Was that your question?
Yeah. So I have obviously, I've got the teenage age group, and then I've got the 5-year-old. So I've got like the unable to express themselves tantrums and meltdowns, but then I also have that older one with it, which is like the drama and the emotional the emotional things that happen at school, you know, with friendship groups and that. It's very hard to disconnect you know, the energy, you know, so to not feel what she is feeling, and very hard to you know, and you feel guilty because you want to be a good parent, so you feel that you need to sit in that space with them.
Okay.
But and that's where I feel like you know, maybe there is another way, which is still being there, but not actually sitting in that reactive emotion with them.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So being able to observe that I don't want to, this is a reaction I don't want to sit to, it's already an awareness.
Yeah.
Right. So then you can, then if it's required, then you clear it again, like all this reactive reality, I'm just going to destroy and create, right? And then I would go and ask another question, particularly if it's for your your teenager one, okay?
Yeah.
Because she's able to express. So you can ask this other question, which is, so truth, and you can do this for yourself quietly. What does my daughter or my son need from me right now? Okay, because your child might need space from you. Your child might need an ear. Your child might need a hug. Your child might need some advice. But if, let's say, your child needs space and you go in there and you're trying to work through, you're trying to hammer in some advice, that child's not going to be able to hear anything, because it's like, right now, I just need space.
Yeah.
I have too much noise going on at school, and that all happened, and I can't deal with it. I need space. Right? So that question in your mind, you can ask, so truth, what does my child need from me right now? So you can do this also with your youngest. You know, if she's 5, right? You said?
Yeah, she's 5.
Because that's where you've got to tune into her energy even more, right? And go, right, so what does she need from me right now? And usually at that age, they need that physical support, because they need to know they're not rejected by the one that loves them the most. Let's say if they got rejected at school and like, somebody didn't want to play with me. It's usually around those areas. Somebody didn't want to play with me, or something didn't go as I wanted it to. I didn't get that toy, I didn't get that thing, or I'm just too tired, or I didn't get my chocolate bar, whatever. That in that space, if you ask that question, truth, what does my child need from me right now? Might be just your physical presence with very little words. So I know this is where it's tough, because with different age group children, if you have that, those of you who are listening as well to the recording, it's that you've got to be willing to apply different strategies, right? So therefore, you wouldn't know what the strategy is or what the need is until you ask that question. So truth, what does my child need from me right now? And just tune in. Okay. But what I like to speak about on top of that is, because you brought up some things in there, like I feel guilty if I'm not there. I feel guilty if I can't help. Now that is the thing that keeps any parent stuck. Because what's happened there? You've judged yourself. You've judged yourself going, I can't help this child. I'm not of any service to this child. And when we go into judgment of ourselves, then we feel guilt, we feel shame, we feel not good enough. And then what happens? We spiral into a level of even more unconsciousness. Right?
Yeah.
So if I were to advise, before you go and sort out any issues with any child in any relationship, is to destroy and uncreate any judgments you have of yourself. Okay? which means you're going to have to lower all your walls and barriers. Now, what is walls and barriers? Access Consciousness talks about this a lot. Lower your walls and barriers. And people think like, okay, what does that mean, right? Because it's not physical walls and barriers. It's actually energetic walls that we pull up when we are in a defensive mode, when we're judgmental, when we're in avoidance, when we're hiding, when we're, trying to be right. Those are the energetic walls that we pull up. And when we pull those energetic walls up, no one, nothing can access us, including ourselves. Right? So then we drop into this like, oh my God, I'm in fight flight. I'm in reaction. I'm in guilt. I'm in shame. That space, you'll be no good to anyone, including yourself. Right? So in real time, let's do this. So all the judgments you have of yourself as a mom, Ali, would you now destroy and uncreate all of that? Right and wrong, good and bad, pot and pock, all 9 shorts, boys, povats, and beyonds. What if all this pressure and expectation you have of yourself to get it right is the same exact thing that is disconnecting you with your child? So would you now lower all your walls and barriers, soften those walls and barriers, because that puts a huge distance between you and your child. Does it feel like you are softening? Because I can feel myself softening as well.
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
So where it's, I think the question of what does my child need from me right now,
Mm-hmm.
it fills me with a lot of anxiety.
Right.
So asking that question, truth, what does my child need from me? I feel freaked out. Yeah, like I feel freaked out. And then it actually creates more
judgment
because I'm scared. One, I'm probably scared of the answer.
Okay. Wow. Okay, let's explore that if you want to. Are you willing? Oops. You've just cut out.
You've just frozen.
Are you willing to can you hear me now? Zoom's not cooperating with us today. Okay, well, this is recorded anyway, and I usually in recordings they don't freeze. All right. So coming back to what you said. Sorry, did you hear?
Sorry,
No, that's okay. Zoom's having stuff. Anyway, would you like to explore that right now?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So let's look at that. Let's look at the emotion of anxiety that comes up when you go to ask truth, what does my child need from me right now? All right. What is that? What are you anxious about?
I think, when we're so busy with life that we, I think what's coming up for me is that my own cup is not full.
Perfect.
So, when my cup is not
awareness. That is amazing awareness. Because then you go, wait a minute, my needs are not met.
Yeah.
So
I think as mothers, we all feel that way as well. We do, you might have 2 kids, 3 kids, a husband who is a kid, a dog, we, as mothers, we always put other people's needs first, and therefore our needs are not met.
Amazing. I think, thank you for bringing us there, because that was one of the things I wanted to cover, which is on top of asking, what does my child need from me right now? The other question you need to ask yourself often is, what are my needs that are not met? Okay. And what are the needs of my inner child that are not met? Right. So one of the other questions that I had pinging was, how are you parenting your child? Are you parenting your child from a place of how you weren't parented, or that you were parented that way? You know, we usually choose between the two.
Yeah.
If you're parented a certain way and you didn't like it, you go, man, I'm going the other direction. Or you were parented a certain way that you felt was great and you follow that, but then it's a different child. It's not going to work, right? Yeah. All right. So let's not digress too far. So if you got that awareness that, wow, my cup is empty, which makes me feel like I can't pour into someone else's cup.
Mm.
And so even in asking that question of like, ooh, truth, what does my child need from me right now, brings up this, then you go, whoa, wait, hang on, what is that? And then you got to the awareness of, right, my needs are not met. So then the next question is, right, so what do I need right now? And would you choose to meet your needs first? Now, so that's a choice, yeah? When you get to an awareness, you then have to make a choice. And everywhere you thought and decided and have chosen in the past to always meet someone else's needs first before yours, will you now destroy and uncreate that? Right, wrong, good, bad, pot and pock, all nine shorts, boys, povats, and beyond. So what have you decided that is so wrong in meeting your own needs first?
Mm.
What have you decided that is so wrong? Is it even wrong?
No, it's probably not. It's just that habitual,
Yeah.
you know, cultural,
Yep.
Judgment
Cool.
and behavior from, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So now you have an awareness, you go, okay, so there's nothing wrong there. It's just that I've learned to choose from that place all the time. Hang
Yeah.
on, I can choose different again. Because then you know what's happened in this, you've actually created some space between your child reacting and having needs and then asking some questions around, wait, hang on, what are my needs I haven't filled?
Mm.
Okay. So great. So if we got to that hang on, there's nothing wrong in meeting my own needs first. So then what do I need right now? And can I take a minute, 2 minutes to just meet that need? Because I think what ends up happening is we're so conditioned to think that these needs are huge and very difficult to fulfill. Then once we think, oh, you know, it's going to be hard, oftentimes it isn't. It's as simple as an acknowledgement of, whoa, I just needed a minute to breathe.
Mm.
Whoa, I just needed a hug from, I don't know, my husband, my kid. What if it was just as simple as that?
Mm.
What if it was just as simple as someone just going, hey, Ali, how was your day? Like really looking at you and checking in on you. Not, how's it going? And then, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And wouldn't it be interesting if, like, you know, if you met your own needs, then the energy shifted and your child's,
Absolutely.
like,
Absolutely.
you know,
Once your needs are met, the energy will shift. And then all of a sudden, your child's probably not even reacting.
yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
another thing I really wanted to get to was this. We create a reaction in other people energetically, yeah, in order to align and validate the way we feel about ourselves.
Mm.
Do you get what I'm trying to say? That I'll break it down. Let's say, for example, if you feel like I'm not a good mom, I'm not a mom that knows how to handle my kids, okay? If that's the belief that you have of yourself as a mom, then more than likely you're going to have situations with your kids where they're going to act out and you can't handle it. Because why? You want to prove to yourself, see, I told you, I'm a shit mom. I don't know how to handle it properly. I can't deal with conflict, whatever that is. So therein also comes back to the point where you said, wow, I wonder if we start filling all cups, whether then the child's reaction would change. Of course it would. Right? Because when you fill your own cup, you are literally changing the narrative you have with yourself. I'm important enough to care for me means I must be good enough, right? On some level, that's what you're saying to yourself. So when your cup is full, then you don't need that reaction, that child to act out to prove to you don't know how to do it. You're not good enough. Right. So everywhere that you've been avoiding, resisting, filling in your own cup because you've concluded that it's wrong, it's bad, it's not what people do. Would you just try and create that? Cool. Right, wrong, good, bad, pot and pockle, nice shorts, boys, put flats and yawns. Okay. Do you have more questions? Or more scenarios?
It'd be good to so if my child is going through something, you know, say with their friends, you know, sometimes I'll sit there and I'll, you know, quietly, energetically ask her, like, you know, will you destroy and uncreate, you know, your relationship with the, you know, is that something
with a friend or something? Yep.
Yeah, with a friend, you know, just to try to clear it for her. You know, is that, yeah, I mean, are there other strategies like to help that person? You know, when you see somebody who is in that toxic environment or something. Yeah.
Okay. So now, I think what the clearing tool is a magic wand that we've learned, right? Which is great.
Yeah.
But what the tool does, the clearing tool does, is it just clears enough energy for you to see clearly. That's all it does. Right? So once you get, that's why once you clear, you get a new level of awareness because the energy is shifted just a little bit for you to see it differently. And therefore, let's say with your child, if they're having a moment and you're trying to clear, your clearing just helps remove some of that sticky energy, just a tad. But I found that you've still got to bring to their awareness what's going on by asking a question. Right? And it could be a simple question like, hey, so what's coming up for you? For example. Or if that's too big a question and they're like, what are you talking about, mom? Just get, what are you feeling right now? Can you find a word that describes what you're feeling? Or where are you feeling it in your body? And so that gives them a level of awareness that then you can go, right. So that reaction, you can clear another level. Does that make sense? Let's say, for example, the child is going, I just feel so, I feel worried. I feel worried. You know, my stomach's like turning and churning because I'm worried about this thing. You go, okay, cool. So let's clear that energy. And what is that? What is that you're worried about? So you might drop just a couple of questions to bring them to a level of awareness, but it's ultimately their choice whether or not they want to go there and explore.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is where, with the teenagers, this is where it's hard because many of them
don't want to go there.
They don't want to go there, and also two, they might not even know how to go there. All right. So so your questions, your simple questions, 1-2 questions will be more than enough for them to kind of like sit in that, which is good enough. Okay. And also check in with, why does my child not want to go there? And you might want to take this in another time. Like, why does my child not want to feel those emotions? And be curious and ask yourself, would I be comfortable feeling those emotions? Because there are some emotions like jealousy, like shame, like envy are very difficult to stay in because it's very uncomfortable to find out that, oh, I'm jealous that my friend has got a new iPad, or I wish I had it. I don't know how to talk to them. It's a difficult emotion, but doesn't mean it can't be processed. Doesn't mean it can't be discussed. So as a parent, we've also got to be willing to be present with our kids for their emotions.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so this is the other thing that is hard for any parent, is to be present, because so many of us were raised with parents that were not present when we were emotionally challenged. Because they weren't. They also didn't have parents to sit there and be like, watch them cry, watch them move through shame, watch them move through anger. We all, whatever culture you come from, you would have been shut down because the world doesn't like emotional outbursts. Generally, it doesn't matter if you're Asian or Caucasian or Black or whatever. It's the same. It's just that we've got different ways to suppress it, I think. Right. So, what's one of the challenges that you've struggled with your own inner child? Because when I brought up the word inner child, you were like, "Oh, what is that?" If you're willing to
It's
explore.
it's one of those things, you know, I think that inner child, like, often I forget about her. So, you know, because we're so busy leading our lives and being a grown up, and you know, it's not someone that you kind of keep coming back to and just addressing and seeing if they're okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's the thing that people, when we first start the work of inner child, it is easier for the adult in us to see that the inner child is a separate entity, right? A different version of ourselves. It's easier to see it that way. But the truth is, it isn't. Over time, you realize you're not connecting with a different entity. You're not connecting to the child that is unseen. You're actually connecting with yourself. Right? So the willingness to just take a moment and go, oh, how am I feeling today? It's already you connecting with your inner child. It doesn't need to be this whole massive process of like, oh, I need to light a candle. I need to, it could be as simple as, how's my cup doing today? You know, what's my battery level today? And are you willing to allow yourself to receive support and help from someone? Okay. Okay. Now, I briefly touched on how you're parented and how, therefore, we adapt that parenting style or strategy to parent our own kids, right? Now, this is where it becomes a twisted expectation of ourselves. Let's say, I'm not saying this is your case or my case, let's just say this person was raised by a parent that's very abusive, okay, emotionally abusive. And this person grows up thinking, oh my God, I do not want to do that. I have my own child. I don't want to do that. And could twist that need to be the perfect parent, the better parent, into what is known as helicopter parenting, which can be detrimental to the child. Am I making sense? Or am I confusing you?
No.
Okay. So let's say in order to be or not be the parent that, let's say it's me, okay? I had a parent that's very emotionally abusive. And I don't want to be that kind of parent. I then turn my parenting style in a manner, twist it in a manner to avoid being that. Then I become this helicopter parent that is like overly emotionally involved with my child. And that can then be smothering for the child. Like every 5 minutes, my mom is asking me, "You feeling all right? You feeling all right? Is this okay?" La la la, and like bubble wrap this child because I so don't want to be like my parents, right? So this is where we've got to really watch that, because Access calls it, the unfulfilled savior. I don't know if you've heard that, but unfulfilled savior, where you feel like you need to save your children, save the world, that then you will, but yet at the same time, you're unfulfilled all the time because it's a different need. You can never get it right. Yeah. So then you're constantly using this to beat yourself up. Okay. So either side, either strategy, either you choose to not be like your parents or be like them, you're still not tuning in to your child and what your child needs. Right? I mean, it's known that kids nowadays are so different to what we were before. Like the stuff that comes at them, the amount of information, the amount of stimulus, that the world is completely different. So how can you expect the parenting style, whether good or bad, could in any way be applicable for the new generation? So you can't. So it still comes back to, how do you have greater awareness around your child's needs, around your child's needs, emotional needs, physical needs, and therefore create a better connection. It's only through questions. And your needs obviously has to be met before you meet your children's needs, right? Okay. So there was a lot there that I'd like to just, because this conversation is something I think many parents don't. One, we were not given any manuals, obviously, no guidelines on how to raise a child in general. And because they're so diversified now, it's even harder. So until and unless you're willing to ask questions, you wouldn't have a clue. And we've got to trust our awareness. We've got to trust that. Because Ellie, do you remember when you had your child, when you first became a mom, you'd probably be the only one who could tell her cries.
Yeah. Because you were in tune with them, with their needs.
Yes. So and I think God or source, if you believe in God, then it's God. If it's not, it's the universal source, gave us this gift to intuitively tune into our child, because it knew your child's not going to speak for another year. You've got to decipher the cries, the energetic signatures that come from your child and go, oh, hang on, child's hungry, or child's uncomfortable, child might be cold. So then, but I don't know at which point we switch that off and not trust that anymore. But that, I feel, is the main tool we have as we navigate through our children growing up. That you're tuned in still to the unspoken needs. Particularly when they're teenagers, they're not going to tell you the whole truth. They're going to twist and turn and la la la, and you have to get around oh, what is going on? And you got to trust that hunch. So if there was anything that anyone is listening to this later on as well, is to reignite that gut feeling, that intuition, that connection you had with your child. You had it already. And dads, if you're listening to this, you have it too. It's not just women. I mean, women, I think, because of the whole breastfeeding and the whole, you know, carrying of the child for 10 years, we're a little ahead. But I've also seen dads who are very in tune because they were willing, not because they knew better. They were just more willing to like listen.
Yeah, and observe.
And observe.
Yeah.
Correct. And we all have that. We all have that. So my ask, I guess, is whether or not we could create more of that in the world, because I think when we come down to the fundamentals of children's needs, they're very basic, Colleen, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's to be seen, to be heard, to be loved, to be safe. Yeah. 4 main things. 4 main things, but yet because they are hidden underneath all the reaction, all the drama, and we don't ask the questions, or we're afraid to ask those questions, we never get down to that.
Yeah, because you know what's coming up for me is that I think we are again conditioned that children are seen, like, you know, seen, not heard. They don't know any better, so generally, you know, I don't know, but I feel what's coming up for me is that we don't ask them questions because you know, there's that belief system that we're the parent, we know best, we know what's right, we know what's wrong. So it's not like, so that's where we don't ask questions of our child.
So can you sit with that? Because again, that is an amazing awareness that you just got of yourself. Like, whoa, I have this point of view that as a parent, I should know it all.
Yeah.
Right?
Don't we? Yeah. Right.
So that's the savior syndrome, right? The savior comes in like, I can save you because I know. And that's superiority.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, or, you know, as a parent, you're like, oh, well, I went through that. And this is, you know, and, you know, obviously as a parent, you know what the outcome is. You're in the future for them. They're in the present. And so, you know, you just say, oh, don't worry about it. You're going, you know, it'll get better. You won't even think about it in future. But obviously they don't understand.
You think that's a problem? Wait.
Like they're in their present. And so we don't, I think we're so busy telling them that it's okay, or telling them what's right, telling them what's wrong, telling them what the future will hold. Which, you know, may be truth, but it for them, it's not truth for them, because that's not their present truth. That's probably future truth, but not present. So we don't ask them the questions.
No. And I think you've touched on something really important there, which is it is a presumptive reality that we as parents know it all, right? And that's a very dangerous presumptive reality, because it's superiority there. And if we present ourselves to be superior to our kids, they won't want to reach out. Do you remember as kids, you're like a mom, dad, almighty. You see them as gods. And you feel like there is a great distance between you and them. And therefore your child will say things like, you won't understand. You wouldn't know, right? It's because of this hierarchy that we've created. So what would it take for you to come into level grounds with your kids? Because what is the truth? The truth is your child knows something you don't. They always do. They always know something about themselves, about their reality that you don't, because you're not them. Even though you're the closest thing to them, you're not them. So you don't look at the world through their eyes. So from that perspective, they will know something you don't. Similarly, because they don't see life through your eyes, you know stuff that they don't either. So what would it take for us to get out of our points of view, to be able to, you know, come into level playing ground and go, okay, so what is that for you? And get off that whole hierarchy and see our kids as just another soul that happens to have a younger body that is evolving. And this is one of the things that I said to my clients too, is that we've got to learn to be vulnerable in front of our children. Because when they see us vulnerable, and that includes, you know, no walls, no barriers, no expectations, no judgments, we're soft. We allow them in. We allow ourselves to be raw. Do you know that liberates the child to go, whoa, I don't have to get it all right. In real time, I've done that many times with my kids, where I let them see me fail. I let them see me cry. I let them see me lose my marbles. And they know exactly what to do. They'll just say, Mom, do you need a hug? And they'll say the kindest things to just shift me out of that energy. And I realized it was, you know, when I get into that was because I allowed myself to be vulnerable with them. And then I would follow up and say things like, yeah, I was just going through something really emotional. And they'll ask me, so Mommy, do you need space right now? Maybe you need some space. Or Mom, would you like to go for a walk? So they step in as well to support. And we've got to be willing to be vulnerable enough to receive help and support from our kids. That's it, the other thing. So if you're now, I say this to many people: don't try and hide your fights from your kids. Let them see you fight, work it out, resolve, because it teaches them how to navigate through life in a realistic manner. Because if you start, you know, closing the doors and you're fighting, you think they can't hear you. Oh my God, they pick up all the energy, right? All the silent daggers that you're shooting at your husband or your wife is shooting at you. They pick it all up. They might not say it, but they pick it all up. And that's sending a message to them like, it's not safe to be vulnerable. It's not safe for you to work through your emotions. You go into hiding. Those are the subtle messages they get. Right? But you got to be willing to, even when you, let's say, fight with your husband or wife or partner, is that you're willing to work through the emotional stuff. That is important. That's a gift for your child or your children to see. Like, oh, this is how they work through that. Which is why my kids, when they see me, you know, lose my bubbles or cry or have an emotional moment, they have figured out already by watching how I navigate, how to support. Like they'll know how to give me space when they sense I need that, or you know, get me a glass of water, or you know, go take me for a walk, something. Cool. So this is a completely different conversation, right?
Parenting.
Yeah, it is parenting, but it is ultimately, we parent our kids the way we parent ourselves. It always comes back to that. So the relationship we have with ourselves then is the way then we have relationship, whether with our parents, with our kids, or with our partners. So every time you're not willing to just quieten down and ask yourself, then you're ignoring you. Then you're abandoning yourself. You're ignoring your needs. You're abandoning your needs. Know what I mean? Cool. Cool. How are you feeling?
Good. Yeah. I think there's like a
Nuggets.
lot of awareness. Yeah. Good
Mm,
information. Good
cool.
awareness that
I'd
came
love to
up.
be able to do this. I gotta do more regularly. But I gotta work out the Zoom link. I have no idea why that happens. And maybe try and do live, which is a bit of a one. Because having this kind of real time conversations is really beneficial with
Mm,
participants to be able to say, right, this is coming up, and can you talk about that? Because I could sit here
yeah.
and talk about my stuff, but it might not be relevant as per se.
It might be great even to do like this type of one-on-one. So the situation is, like for me, it's like I've got the the toddler with, but then I've also got the teenager, and obviously the parenting is different. But then that would resonate with somebody else who might also have the teenager
Yeah,
and going through something like that. So it'd be great to sort of almost like a case study or a
yeah,
conversation with,
yeah.
like another parent who maybe has a parent of boys and they've got
Correct.
issues. They've got their own sort of things that come
Yeah,
up for them
yeah.
because they have that different energy, and
Exactly.
and the people can listen in on
Yeah.
that one.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's what I'd love to create, because I think there are not enough conversations around this, because outside of the intimate relationships we have with our partners, the next most intimate relationship is with your kids and then your
yeah,
parents, right? Of course, the ultimate relationship, the most intimate one, is the one you have with yourself, you know.
yeah.
But
But it all
yeah,
ties in, like
it
that's what,
all
and I
does.
think, yeah, and I think that's where, like that this is the awareness has come up in our conversation
Mm,
today, that yeah, it's like, if we don't fill up our own cups,
yeah.
and then um and then yeah, that feeling like where we feel like we are superior to the children, and that's
Mm,
why we don't ask questions, like yeah, it all still, obviously it all comes back around
yeah.
uh to us,
Cool.
but yeah, I think just great, like to be able to listen in on another parent who has their questions for you.
Yeah, I'll love I might, in a couple of weeks run another one. We'll
Yeah,
see if we can get more people to join. Because that was my intention, is
yeah,
to like bounce off each other, to be able to go, is that how you would do it? Is
yeah.
that the strategy you would apply? Um, yeah, because every child's so different, particularly now. I feel like kids are so overstimulated.
Oh yes,
Yeah. And
yes,
because
and
parents
yeah,
are busier, um, our cups get a different cup, not the nourishing, healing cup, the other cup, the overstimulation, and that bubbles over and people feel overwhelmed.
mm,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Okay,
definitely.
well, let's see.
Thank you
Thank
so
you for
much.
coming on. No
No
worries.
worries.
I will put out this recording to on YouTube, and then so people can you can re-listen again, and maybe send it off to anyone who feels like you feel like they need it.
Yeah, fantastic. Thanks,
All right.
Vicky.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
You
Bye.
too. Bye.